When somebody says Internet of Things, I know exactly what you're picturing. A fridge that tweets when you're out of milk, or maybe a doorbell that films your Amazon driver. Probably a toaster that needs a software update for some reason. I want you to hold that image in your head and then forget about it, because everything you think you know about IoT is completely wrong. The actual story is so much bigger, so much weirder, and so much more important than just smart speakers and smart locks. Let me start with a confession. So maybe about 5 years ago, I would have told you the same thing. IoT, yeah. The smart home stuff, or maybe some wearables like the Apple Watch or the Google Watch. Then I went down a rabbit hole that completely rewired how I see the modern world. And by the end of this video, I think you'll do the same too. So just stay with me and subscribe to this channel. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Bot and I'm a manufacturing AI engineer. And today I'm going to walk you through IoT. What is IoT? What is IIoT? Whatever you've heard, all the myths, we're going to debunk it right here on Boots and Bots. Let me take you to 38,000 feet. You are on a flight from London to New York, maybe 6 hours, somewhere over the Atlantic. The cabin is quiet, somebody is snoring. You are watching a movie you've never watched on the ground, and bolted to the wing, maybe about 3 feet from where you are sitting, is one of the most heavily monitored objects on planet Earth, a Rolls-Royce or a GE jet engine. It has about 5,000 sensors, yes, 5,000 sensors, measuring temperature, pressure, vibration, fuel flow, RPM, oil viscosity, blade stress, just name it, every millisecond. This generates about 10 gigabytes of data per second. The data that is being beamed in real time to a control center, maybe in Derby, England, or Michigan, New York, wherever in the world, where engineers are watching your engine live. They are looking for the slightest pattern that says something might fail in the next 10,000 flight hours. And here is the part that should mess with your head. Your smart fridge, the one you've been thinking along all this while, generates maybe about 50 megabytes of data a day. The Boeing engine, a single second, produces 200 times more data than the fridge does in the entire day. That's IoT, the real IoT, the one nobody talks about. And this is not a side project. It's a 500 billion industry quietly running the world while everyone argues about whether their smart bulb is worth $30. So the question is, how did we get here? Because this didn't happen overnight. And it didn't start in Silicon Valley. The first IoT device ever built was in 1991. It was just a coffee pot at Cambridge University. A bunch of computer science students got tired of walking down the hall to find an empty pot, so they hooked up a camera to it and put the feed online. That was it. That was the moment the physical world started talking to the internet. But the real revolution started 15 years later, probably around 2006, in a place nobody was paying attention to, General Electric. Yes, General Electric, the light bulb company. They started bolting sensors onto every jet engine, every wind turbine, every locomotive they manufactured. They sold something that is called uptime. Think about what that means. Instead of selling you a jet engine for $50 million and walking away, they sold you guaranteed performance. They said, we'll keep this engine running. We'll predict failures before they happen. We'll only charge you for the hours it actually flies, because they had the data. They had thousands of engines reporting back in real time from every corner of the planet. So that model, they called it industrial internet. This quietly became one of the most profitable shifts in industrial history. Meanwhile, the other side of the Atlantic, the Germans, were doing the same thing, but with some characteristic flaring for naming. They called it Industry 4.0, implying that this was their fourth industrial revolution after steam, electricity, and computing. And honestly, they weren't wrong. While Silicon Valley was arguing about whether the iPad was a real computer, Siemens, Bosch, they were wiring up every factory floor in Bavaria. And nobody noticed this. And that's not even the wildest part. The biggest industrial transformation since assembly line happened in plain sight, and the tech press were too busy covering smart juicers to write about it. So what is industrial IoT? Okay, let me actually define this thing, because you are going to remember one distinction from this video, and this is the real moment. So the first is consumer IoT, the stuff in your house. It's more about convenience, saving you a trip to the thermostat, or telling you whenever your door is locked or unlocked, or maybe your fridge door. Is it locked or is it unlocked? That is cute and useful, but not really life-changing. And then we have industrial IoT, that is called IIoT. It's about three things: keeping people alive, saving billions of dollars, and predicting the future of physical things. That's the whole game. And it shows up everywhere you don't look. The bridge you drive over has sensors monitoring stress and vibration so it doesn't collapse. The power lines feeding your house have smart meters routing electricity across outages before you even notice. The shipping container carrying your Amazon package has a GPS tracker, maybe a temperature sensor, and a tamper detector reporting back to control room in Singapore. The cow on your farm where your milk comes from has a sensor in its ear monitoring its health and reproductive cycle. So it's about 50 billion of these things and growing every minute, talking to each other, talking to the cloud, talking to AI models, running physical layer of civilization. Now, let me give you an example that when personally I understood it, the whole thing clicked for me. Let's talk about predictive maintenance. Picture a factory. It makes car parts, brake parts. Let's say there's a stamping machine on the floor that costs $2 million. If that machine breaks, the entire production line stops. Every hour, its down costs the company maybe about $50,000. Now let's talk about the bad breakdown. 3 days of downtime. That's $3.5 million gone. So the old way of dealing with this was either reactive or you just wait for it to break and then you panic. Or maybe just keep maintaining it at an equal interval where you replace parts maybe every 6 months, whether they need it or not. Both ways are very wasteful. Both ways cost a fortune. Now, here's what industrial IoT setup does. You put sensors on that machine. So we're talking about vibration sensors, temperature sensors, acoustic sensors that listen to the sound the machine makes. The data streams in real time to the cloud platform. An algorithm, usually a machine learning model, has been trained on thousands of similar machines. So it knows what a healthy machine sounds like. It knows that a machine 3 weeks from failure sounds exactly like this. So when the machine, your current machine, gets to that failure point, the sensor is able to signal to you and say that your machine is about to fail. So on one Tuesday morning, the system flags something like the vibration is in third bearing and has shifted maybe 0.3 Hz. So your model can say that this bearing fails in 23 days, plus it gives room for some error. The system can order replacement parts. It schedules a technician, books the next planned downtime, sends a notification to maybe the floor manager. The bearing gets replaced even before it fails. The factory never stops. So a company like McKinsey estimates that predictive maintenance saves global manufacturers between $240 to $600 billion a year. That is not convenience, that is complete rewrite of the physical economy. Now, here's where most people watching IoT stuff online get lost. They think IoT basically means sensors, sensors, sensors. It's more like stick a sensor to a machine, then boom, IoT. No, that is why 3 out of 4 IoT projects fail. And that is according to Cisco's 2024 study. IoT is a stack. It has 4 layers. And if any of them breaks, the whole thing becomes useless. Layer 1 is the sensors. That is the eyes and the ears of the hardware. Easy to understand, easy to buy. They get cheaper every year. And you come to layer 2. That is the connectivity phase. How does the data actually get out of the machine? Wi-Fi works in the office. It doesn't work in the middle of a wheat field. You need 5G or maybe LoRaWAN or satellite or industrial Ethernet. This is where most projects die. People forget that the data has to travel. We come to layer 3. That is the platform. Where does the data live? How is it processed? How is it stored? How is it analyzed? This is where AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud are fighting a brutal war right now against specialized industrial platforms like, GE's Predictive and Siemens MindSphere. We come to layer 4. That is the application. That is the dashboard. That is the alerts, the AI model. All of them live here. The automated action. This is where value actually appears. Where the algorithm is basically saying that this bearing fails in 23 days. Where the system can actually order its own parts. Where the human sees the insight. Most companies just buy a sensor, slap it on a machine, and assume magic happens. So the magic happens, but it lives in layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4. The sensor is the cheapest part. The hardest part is everything that comes after. Now we get to the part that I think is the most underrated story in tech. It's a power story. So China figured out where it was going a decade ago. Industrial IoT was the center of it. Every factory wired, every machine monitored, every supply chain visible in real time. They've been pouring state money in this for over 10 years. Germany, they also figured it out. That's Industry 4.0. It wasn't just a marketing term, it was like a national industrial strategy. The German governments, German universities, and German manufacturers all aligned on the same vision. Now we come to the United States. We invented most of the underlying technology. The industrial deployment in America has been slower, more fragmented, and largely driven by older industrial companies. I am talking about GE, Honeywell, Rockwell, fighting hyperscalers like Amazon, Microsoft for control of the data layer. But here's the kicker. The country that wins manufacturing wins 21st century economy. This isn't hype. This is the actual stakes. So when politicians talk about reshoring or bringing manufacturing back, what they are actually talking about, whether they know it or not, is industrial IoT. Because you cannot compete with low-wage labor without it. There is no version of the future where developed economies have manufacturing without aggressive automation, and there is no aggressive automation without industrial IoT. It's as simple as that. So why should you, sitting there watching a YouTube video, care about all of this? It is for 3 reasons. The first one is jobs. The industrial IoT space has a massive shortage of people who can speak both languages. And I'm talking about OT and IT. OT stands for operational technology. The world of machines, sensors, factory floors, and then the IT side. That is cloud, code, data, AI. If you can do both, you are one of the most hireable people in the economy right now. 6-figure salaries are the floor, and almost nobody is training for it because everyone is chasing AI prompt engineering or AI engineering or whatever. The second reason is investments. The companies that are winning industrial IoT are not the obvious ones. They are not the fang names. They are PTC, Cognex, Rockwell Automation, Siemens, Schneider Electric, all the boring names. They are quietly compounding, and this is very foundational to literally everything. The third reason is worldview. Once you see industrial IoT, you cannot unsee it. You start noticing sensors on highway bridges, the smart meters on power lines, the trackers on shipping containers, the cameras counting cars in parking lots, the drones surveying the construction sites. You realize that the physical world has been quietly digitalized around you and almost nobody is talking about it. So the next time somebody talks to you about IoT revolution and shows you a smart kettle, I want you to do something for me. I want you to think about that Boeing engine, 5,000 sensors, 10 gigabytes of data every second, streaming live to a control room halfway across the world. That is the real revolution. It's already happened. We are just living inside of it now. If this changed the way you see the world even a little, do well to hit subscribe and then follow this channel. It genuinely helps the channel, and drop a comment telling me one place you now spotted industrial IoT in the world. This is Boots and Bots. Thank you.